All right, now that we've stripped our project bare, gotten rid of all the audio effects that might encumber or limit the amount of possibilities that we have in the mixing and mastering process, now it's time to go through and isolate every individual sound in our project and make sure that they're on their own track. That way, when we export them, we have one audio file for every single sound within our project. And this is going to give us the maximum amount of control over our mix and where everything fits inside of that. So as you're learning about your instruments or your plugins or whatever you're working with, it's important to learn how to route the sounds in and out of them so that you can keep things separate. So by the end of this, we're going to have a good feel for how to do this with Kontakt and as well as Native Instruments Battery. But looking at your own instruments, read the user manual or do a YouTube search and try and find out how to route out multi-channel audio out of your plugins. So let's start with the guitar. Let's check and make sure that that is just one sound on there, and it is. We've just got one Mellotron guitar inside of there. So that one's isolated. We can move on to the bass. Check this one out. This one's just one sound as well. So we're good there. Looking at the flute track, again, another instance of Kontakt. This one's got two instruments inside of it. So I want to isolate out both of these and get separate streams of audio coming out of Kontakt into Ableton so that I can generate independent audio files of this. So to do this inside of Kontakt, we'll expose the mixer or the output section. Right now we can see if we've got the I exposed on each of these, we'll see the output and the MIDI channel here. Both of them, well actually this one should be receiving on Omni, all MIDI channels in. And then they're both currently routed to output to monitor or output 1 of both of these, which is MO down here. So now we want to route out this second instrument, this Super JP Brass 2, out monitor 2, but right now monitor 2 is set up to be a mono channel. So to fix that, we'll just click on the number 2 down here, go up to how many audio channels does this have, bump it up to 2, and we're going to assign these. There's our first two channels, which go to monitor 1, and we'll start this one on 2 and 3, which we can see plug in out 3, plug in out 4, say OK. It's going to tell us we should restart, but I've never had a problem with not restarting. So now I've got monitor 1, which is stereo output, output 1 and 2, monitor 2, which is a stereo output, output 3 and 4 outputs of Kontakt. And all we have to do is reroute where this goes to. Rather than monitor 1, we want to send this to monitor 2. And we're good to go. Now if I went back and I started playing this flute sound, we would notice that all I'm hearing is that first instrument. That's because that second instrument we had loaded up inside of there is currently routed out an output that isn't feeding into Live right now. So by default, the instrument tracks inside of Live are only going to receive the first stereo feed or the first two channels from any plugin that lives on side of it. Some other audio workstations are a little bit more sophisticated in the number of channels that they can receive on any one track from a multi-channel plugin, but with Live we can only get one stereo feed per track. So what this means is we have to set up a second feed or second track to receive that output from Kontakt. So I'm going to create a new audio track, Command T, rename this one. Let's see, what was the name of that thing? It was called the Super JP Brass 2. So let's rename this one as Super JP Brass. And then we're going to set up its audio in. Right now it's hearing my voice, getting the external. Let's route this instead to the flute track. And on the flute track, we're going to go to the Kontakt 3 and 4. And then we're going to enable input monitoring on this track. Now if I solo out this track, we can hear that Super JP Brass coming through. And then if I command click both of these to hear them simultaneously, now I've got both of those sounds on two different tracks there, so I can address them or mix them separately. Let's move on here. The brass sound, this has got 3 in it, so let's set this up. We've already got our output exposed. This one should be a stereo channel. Should start on 2 and then go to 3. Select OK. Oops, screwed up something there. Output 2, output 3. Okay, there we go, 3 and 4. Bump this up to 2 channels. Start this one on 4. Let's see, 4 and 5. Did I get that right? There we go, 5, 6. Good. So now we've got 3 stereo outputs. Route both of these. That one goes out monitor 1. This one should go out monitor 2. This one should go out monitor 3. Jump out of there. Set up our audio tracks. We need 2 audio tracks. Command T, Command T. Let's set both of these up. If I shift click on both of them, I can bump them both over to that brass track to begin with. And then let's go rename them. The first one is Rapman Brass. The second one is Matrix Brass. Let's rename this one as Rapman Brass. Tab over to the next one, underscore Matrix Brass. Then set them both up. This one is already receiving from our brass track. We want it to hear the output 3 and 4 from Kontakt. This one 5 and 6. Input monitoring enabled. Test this. Let's go find a section where my brass is playing. Excellent. There's all of my brass sounds. Let's check out this pad. The pad is only coming from Massive. Massive only has 1 stereo output from it. It's not a multi-channel instrument, so that one's good to go. And then finally, the drums track. So let's go find a busy section of the drums. See, this last one is good. Let's loop that, slow this out. Crack open battery. Battery is a lot like Ableton Live's built-in drum rack, where we've got all these slots that we can load up samples inside of. And I'm not using all of these slots, so I'm looking to identify which slots I am using and then route those out discrete channels. So let's see. Here's the snare sound. Let's route the kick out. Direct outputs, channel 1 and 2 I've gotten here by right-clicking on it. Stereo output 1 and 2. Here's the rim sound that I'm using, so let's route that out 3 and 4. There's the snare sound I'm using. Let's output that out 5 and 6. I was using all of these claps. Let's go 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then that shaker. There's that shaker sound. Stick that one out 13, 14. Now, if I get this playing, you'll notice that we only hear that kick drum because that kick drum is the only one that's outputting those first 2 channels out of the battery there. So now we need to set up our other tracks. So we had a rim, snare, 3 claps, and a shaker. So rename this one as rim, snare, clap 1, clap 2, clap 3, and finally our shaker. Then set all of those to start their audio source from that drums track, and then discreetly on each channel. This one starts with battery 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10, 11 and 12, 13 and 14. So now input monitoring. There we go. There's that rim sound, snare sound, 1 clap, 2 clap, 3 clap, and the shaker. And let's rename this first one as my kick track. Let's see, let's rename this one as, rather than brass, let's rename it as trombone, pads, guitar, boom, boom, boom. All right, so now we've got everything broken out. We've got each sound in our project on its own track, and now we're ready to export.